Okay. Let me see. Yeah, the meaning behind this song, the inspiration behind this song. Well, I'll tell you how it came together. So, I just started with Mr. Rose, I don't suppose you'd want. I didn't even know those words yet, really. I just went. And then what came next was pure phonetics, which was Mr. Boda. And from there you kind of piece together the words. So it just popped into my head. I wasn't trying to write a song about anybody or Mr. Rose in particular necessarily, but that's just kind of what came out. Mr. Rose, I don't suppose that you want to spend your afternoon with me. The TikTok's explaining my interpretations in my draft. Oh boy. I want to see those. So I knew it was going to be this song about some guy named Mr. Rose. And the narrator was obviously pining after this guy to some extent. And I'm a big kind of landscape artist, I think. Whenever I write a song, it's a really imagery driven process. So I try to figure out where does this live? What land does this live in, I guess, when I was starting to write lyrics. And I like the idea of kind of something medieval-y kind of set. And I don't really know how it came, but I imagine this young boy looking out the window, up the hill, at this man. And originally, I thought maybe this kid just sees a landscaper. Maybe he just sees a gardener that's, working on some guy's house. But the kid's so young that he just sees a guy with a pocket full of roses, and he's enamored by him. And I think once I had that, I had the story about who's our narrator, who is he singing to. I had the landscape in my head, this man on the hill, this kid at the bottom of the hill. And I had, sonically this had a body, right? It had some personality. From there, it just kind of wrote itself, I guess. And I know that's such an annoying answer to hear sometimes, but yeah, so it was really a story about childhood enamoration, because there were so many things I remember loving as a child because I didn't understand them. I loved, what's a good example? I loved tops. I was a big top kid because I didn't get it. I didn't understand. How come when this thing moves that way, it just magically floats? And so I think ignorance, quite literally, can be so blissful for young people, and that kind of mood drove this song. This is how I recall writing it, at least. And so, yeah. And there's a man on the hill, and his pockets are filled up with roses. Though I don't see him often, and I don't think he knows the problem that this poses. Or if I had to live without him, I want nothing more to do with this mountain, Mr. Rose, I don't suppose. And then, yeah, so verse 2, total daydream, right? We can walk through the garden, begging the pardon of the bluebirds. You'll lay down on the lawn and I'll study your yawn. And some people have asked about what I'll study your yawn means. Again, I think it's just, I was trying to think about what would a kid be fascinated by, And for me, I mean, even as an adult, when you get obsessed with somebody, you just want to learn their idiosyncrasies, right? You want to learn their nuances. Not that it was a love type relationship, but it was just a fascination. Enamoration really is the best word for it. So yeah, it's just yeah, of course you're going to study the way they yawn and the way they lay down on the lawn. And then he goes off into this thing about, maybe his mother and father had different plans for him, but he's always kind of been stuck on this Mr. Rose guy. And then I think in the bridge is where we get, hopefully this is not boring for you guys, but I think in the bridge is where we get a little, he gets on the verge of hostile, maybe. I don't know. He gets a little angrier, right? For my days here unnumbered, if I end up under the thumb of a loveless man who wants... My days here are numbered if I end up under the thumb of a loveless man who wants to lock all the doors. How sad is that? You kidding me? If I end up under the thumb... I mean, just take the line, if I end up under the thumb of a loveless man. Do you know how many, guys, gals, others have felt that in their lives? I don't know. I think that we discredit the emotions of young people quite a bit, and I wanted to put something in this bridge that was like real, for sure. Because I think a lot of people are unfortunately under the thumbs of loveless people, and that's a terrible, terrible thing to think about. But it's very real. I swear I'll run straight into the forest. The surest I've ever felt to myself is when you're on my mind. And then for the third verse, we switch over to the perspective of Mr. Rose. So for a long while, I was singing the third verse actually in a lower octave to try and kind of emphasize and make that a little bit more clear that this is a different narrator. So oh gosh, but it's low, right? Which is why I decided against it. There's a house with a window, and inside that house there's a boy. He might think, can't do that. He might think I can't see when he stares out at me, but oh how it fills me with joy. I feel like my parents have always kind of jokingly talked about when are grandkids going to be a thing, and I think a lot of old folks maybe seek comfort in young people to some extent, and that's all this was. It wasn't like, I think some people have asked, is Mr. Rose into this kid? Is it weird? I didn't think of it that way. I didn't intend it that way or anything. I just I imagine, this landscaper sees this kid staring at him day after day. And yeah, I mean, I feel like most people would get a kick out of that if it's harmless. Yeah. How else does it end? For life on the hill can be awfully bereft of the moments that wake up an old man's chest. So before my days end, I'll wrap up a rose and send it down the way. To the boy who made me feel like a boy again. Yeah, so that's the story. Hope that makes sense.